Today we're going to start our project about the artist Andy Warhol. And the style of art that he would create was considered pop art, which can almost be short for popular art. So he would do printmaking of different objects that were popular at the time that he was creating art. So what you are going to think about, and hopefully you will brainstorm as a class, is what is something that is currently popular. We have everything from different foods to video games. However, I am going to ask you to remember that at our school, since we're creating in school, it does need to be appropriate. No blood, no guts, no weapons. And I am going to stick fairly firmly to that rule because we don't want to scare our younger students, and we want the artwork hanging in our school to be appropriate for everybody. So I am going to choose something that is fairly simple and makes sense for me as an art teacher. So I am going to draw a crayon. I am using marker to draw because this will save me a step later. I would highly encourage you to use a pencil to draw so that you can erase if you make a mistake. This smaller piece of paper, for you it might be a rectangle, it might be a square. Either one is fine. It will still work with what we're doing. So here is my crayon so far. I will add a little bit more detail to it. So it looks like it's going right off of the page. And then I might draw kind of a squiggly line, like it's colored a little bit on the paper. So here is my crayon. So that is my smaller sheet, and that is what I'm going to be using in just a moment. The next thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to use my big piece of paper. So this one is cut to 12 by 12, and I am going to fold this in half. I tend to open it back up, turn it, fold it in half again so that I am creating a fraction on my paper. So I'm dividing my paper into fourths, 4 even sections every time. Okay, then what I would do is I'm going to tuck this square under. I'm just going to show you on top real quick. This fits quite well right in there. I've cut the paper to be the correct size, so it fits in one corner of my paper. And so I'm going to tuck it behind, and I can see my lines through. If after just using pencil you cannot see your lines through, you would want to trace it with a dark colored marker. It does not need to be Sharpie, just the Crayola ones are perfectly fine. And by dark colors, I mean brown, black, blue, purple, just so that you can see the lines enough to trace them onto your paper. And since we have divided our paper into fourths, it can be a pretty safe assumption that we're going to be tracing this 4 times. Okay, now you will notice that I have traced my object 4 times. So I have my larger piece of paper and I have traced it 4 times, and it looks pretty similar in each section. This smaller piece is now no longer necessary. We can put it off to the side. You can take this home with you as long as you have these 4 traced, or you can put this in the recycling. The choice is yours. It's your work. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to start coloring similarly to how Andy Warhol would have created his pieces. I tend to like doing the backgrounds first, and I use different colors every time. So I want it to be nice and bold and colorful and colored in neatly. Part of this, since the design is fairly simple, is that we want to make sure that our coloring is really quite neat, because that will be part of our grade. Now that I have finished coloring my backgrounds, I'm going to start working on the object itself, which is my crayon and then that swish of color that's coming down. What I like to do is I'm going to kind of turn this into different sections, and they're going to be different colors, and it's okay that the colors are not going to be realistic. For example, if you drew a dog, your dog might end up being purple in one square, yellow in another, and so on and so forth. You might not use realistic colors every time. So my crayon is not just going to be all the same color and then the correct color that it would be making. It's going to be a little bit different, because that would be essentially how Andy Warhol would have created his pieces as well. He might not have used the same exact colors every time. So, and I'm going to continue to use marker. I do tend to outline the shape first before I start to color, because this way I get myself a nice edge, so I'm less likely to color inside the shape that I am using. So something that I kind of want to tie in is that I used a violet and a yellow, and those are complementary colors. I also used blue and orange, which are complementary colors on the color wheel. So what I might do is have that swirl of color be the opposite of what the background is. So I would use the violet in the yellow and my blue inside the orange. And I know on this it looks a little bit blue. It's that the royal purple, so it's a little bit more on the blue side than intense purple, but I like how that looks a little bit better. So I'm going to do this part, and then I'll talk a little bit more. So now I have another section done, and what I am going to do next is I might not use these same 4 colors again, but I might. It all depends on what I want. I personally like how these 4 colors are coming together really well. I think I'm going to continue to use them. You, however, do not. If you want to, you can use different colors. But what I would think about to make it look more like an Andy Warhol piece, you would want to use the same color in your objects. So I would use blue here, and then I have blue in the background, so I might use the blue somewhere in here and the blue somewhere in here. So I might make the wrapper blue or the crayon itself blue to keep with a similar color scheme. If you have more than 4 shapes, you will probably end up using more than 4 colors, and that's perfectly fine. But one of the things that kind of helps to make it look more interesting is by using the same colors and repeating them. So getting that repetition in your artwork helps to make it look like it goes together a bit more. Okay, at this point I have finished my Andy Warhol style artwork. I have used nice bold, bright colors. I have chosen something that's popular, at least for me, and easily recognizable, which is my crayon. Remember that once you think you're all finished, you want to really double check your work and ask yourself, is it my very best? Is there anything else that I can neaten up? When you are all finished, this would have already been drawn out with pencil. If you feel that you need to trace over it with a Sharpie, that would be your very last step. And then at the very end, what you are going to do is you are going to sign it in the bottom. So you will be putting your name and class right in that bottom corner so that we know that it's finished.